So, Nicky, thanks for joining me today. It's good to have you here.
Thanks for inviting me.
No problem. So, yeah, we're talking in this podcast about suppliers and understanding from your perspective how things have been over the last year, and looking to the future a bit as well, and some of the pressures and challenges on the industry. We've talked in previous episodes about the caterers, and obviously the last one was around the hospital food review, but we felt it was a good opportunity to speak to some suppliers and find out your side of the story, and what's going on for you guys in the industry. So if I just start by asking, what's your background and how did you come to be involved in catering and food? And obviously it'd be great if you could just give us a little brief of what Lowerhurst do as well.
Okay, so I joined Lowerhurst Farm in 2006. Previous to that, I didn't really have a background in catering. I worked for Debenhams, and I'd done a management training scheme there where I'd worked in design and layout of stores, buying and merchandising, and then ended up in marketing, which was the area that I enjoyed the most. And I worked for them for 12 years. And then I moved out of London, relocated to Derbyshire, and was looking for a position and got interviewed by Andrew Sabir, who owns Lowerhurst Farm, and came to work for him. The farm here is just over 270 acres, and they've been organic farming here for over 30 years. He has a herd of prize-winning Herefords, and he has a few sheep, and we did have a few pigs last year, but that exercise didn't work, so unfortunately we don't have the pigs anymore. But Andrew asked me to come and work for him to look at how he could balance his carcasses. So in 2006, he had a successful farm shop, which predominantly selling premium cuts, and he couldn't get rid of the forequarter meat. Nobody wanted it, and he had a freezer pack full here. So he just asked me to come and have a look on a consultancy basis as how he could market the farm better, how he could get more people to buy the forequarter meat. And I just looked at the area and saw that we had a local school here, and I had seen that the local school and Andrew had been in touch, and that there was some interest in them buying Lowerhurst products. But the difficulty was that they just weren't a standalone school, so you couldn't just supply into them. They were part of the local authorities' catering team. And so we approached them and we went for a Meet the Buyer Day, which is an interesting experience for somebody who hadn't been to one of those before, and found out for them what they were looking for. And they were very keen to have local producers and suppliers on board, but they were finding it difficult to get them on at that time, that there was consistency in product standard, that people could deliver frequently, and that could deliver in the volume. So they said they'd love to have us on board, but there was 6-7 pages of boxes that we needed to tick before we could get there. So I presented this to Andrew and said, look, this could be a good opportunity for the farm. It might be something that you want to do. And he said, yes, I'd love to do that, but I think we should set up a different company to supply them. So we set up Lowerhurst Organic in 2007, put an investment package together, which converted one of the barns into a production unit, worked out what we needed in terms of certifications, got involved with the Soil Association on the food production side, who were very helpful, and the Food for Life team there. And in the autumn of 2007, we started supplying our first product into the local county. And since then, we've grown and worked with lots of other organic farmers to get meat from and supply it across the country now into predominantly schools. We do a couple of universities, and we have done hospitals in the past. So it's been a steep learning curve, an enjoyable learning curve, a challenging one, I would say.
It's a fantastic story. It really is quite inspirational to have started from that point and grown it to where you are today. So credit to you all there.
Yeah, no, and I think it summed it up. I think it was 2 years ago we won the supplier award from Food Food for Life team, and we won the Boom Award for our product. So, the team here worked really hard, and, it's a credit to what they've done, really.
Yeah. So, I mean, that takes you to 2 years ago, or to a year ago, should we say. So, and obviously things have changed significantly in the last year across the catering sector. So, yeah, I mean, it's been tough for everyone involved, but how has your business been affected in particular?
I think, like all businesses, the first lockdown, it was probably not anticipated. Well, none of the businesses anticipated to be as hard as it was. So overnight, we closed basically, and we had freezers full of stock that was due to go out to schools, which obviously wasn't needed anymore. And so we adapted fairly quickly, thinking, right, all these supermarkets got empty shelves, we've got people looking for food, and we've got it sat in our freezers. This is ridiculous. How can we get it to our local community? And so we started a home delivery service probably about 2 weeks after the first lockdown, which was run by one of the members of the team here, and we promoted it on social media. And to the local community that way. And then over those few months until we came out of lockdown, that's all we did. We were just supplying locally. And then obviously schools went back, and we saw that the uptake was a lot less, because obviously schools have got to make dining rooms. COVID safety was first, so there were fewer people going into the dining rooms. They were providing packed lunches, cold meals. So we saw our numbers go down quite considerably, but we've been lucky that the caterers have communicated lots with us, so we've been very flexible, and they've been updating us, we've been talking to them, and we got through to the second lockdown, which again closed the production business down again for a couple of weeks, because we obviously have stocks, they have stocks, they've got only key workers in. So we're back now with some staff on flexible furlough. We've got people in today producing, but it's just the reduction in the volume that's going through and the effect that it's having on the cash reserves, really, which is the thing that we're trying to protect at the moment.
Yeah. So how has the box scheme gone? Has it been? Would you say it's been a success? And is it something that you think you'd continue with in the future, or?
So when we started it off, as I said, we just promoted it through social media, and it was purely selling the pack sizes that we've got in stock. We found that a lot of people found that the pack sizes were too big, and so we've had to break those down. We also set up an online shop. So now we've got a new website with its own online shop, and that gave us the opportunity to source more from other local suppliers. And growers. So we started sourcing organic fruit and vegetables, and adding those to our range, so that people wanted to go to a one-stop shop. They don't really want to go to somebody that specialises in meat and then specialises in veg and have 2 or 3 deliveries turning up. They really wanted one delivery. So we tried to provide that. It has worked relatively well. We've only gone within a 20-mile radius of the farm. So obviously, when you look at the costs of it, if you're only delivering to 1 or 2 people en route, it's not very effective. Click and collect is better. And if we can do it in a closer radius with more drops on the way, it obviously works better for us. We have stopped doing the fruit and veg for the moment, and that's really down to Brexit. Because the quality of the produce that we were getting wasn't great, because it was being delayed in transit and the costs of the goods were going up. So we sort of suspended that for a while, and we might do it again when more stuff in the UK is in season. But we've not continued with that over the winter months. By doing the box scheme, it's given us opportunities to try on new things as well. So, for instance, people wanted less packaging, plastic free. So we've taken out the boxes, just delivering stuff in trays, then getting the trays back. Our vac packs, which obviously keep the meat for longer, was just standard plastic before. We've just managed to source from a company in Manchester a compostable vac pack. So
Fantastic.
it's not something that you can necessarily leave in the freezer for over 12 months, because will obviously decompose over time. But we are using that and trialling that at the moment with some products. So it's led to some new initiatives as well.
Yeah. So I was going to ask, is this a good time to innovate and change? But you've kind of already answered.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because on the school catering side of things, we probably haven't looked at that specifically to do something different. We've reviewed our products and the recipes that we do, and is the quality good, and looking at trends, and should we be developing new recipes. But then out of the online shop has come this sort of new packaging ideas, and maybe eventually we'll be able to take that through into the school side of things as well. So that has been a positive, that we've got to try new things that we wouldn't have done in the past.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. So looking forward, then, what do you think the challenges are likely to be as we maybe return to pre-COVID demand? I suppose the first question is, do you feel like you will, or is that going to be a slow process? I guess you've already touched on the fact that when you went back after the first lockdown, schools weren't doing things as they were before. So, and I guess it's still maybe a bit too early to know, isn't it? We've not had any confirmation from the government as yet as to what happens next. But
I mean, obviously, the safety of the teachers and the pupils is the prime concern when they go back, possibly after Easter or after March the 8th. And so, will the dining rooms be back up to full strength? I doubt it. Most of the caterers that we have been speaking to are offering a hot meal. So it's really down to the schools whether they're going to take that and whether they can provide that service. I think it will probably be until the autumn till we're fully back to any sense of sort of normality. I think it will be interesting because everybody is using up their cash reserves, and so I think there's going to be fewer caterers, fewer distributors, fewer growers and producers who will come back, and so I think the cost of goods is going to go up, and I think the challenge is really going to be, can we still ensure that quality food is going into schools at affordable prices? I think the good thing that's come out of the pandemic is everybody's worked a lot closer together. We've got much better, communication up and running with everybody. But it really is going to be a challenge that I think everything is going to cost that bit more. So the ingredients that we get in to make, obviously the living wage was due to go up. I'm not sure whether that's on hold at the moment during the pandemic, but I know that was due to go up again in April. All those things are going to affect the price of food, and certainly with the distributors as well. I think they found it challenging because they've been delivering to a school, but en route they've not been delivering to the pub or the restaurant as well. Yeah, so true. They've not been making the money at the same time. So I think it's going to be challenging for everybody. But I do think everybody is there's still that spirit to work together and to get through this. So that's the positive thing about it all. And everybody does want good food.
Yeah, okay. So which leads me on to, I was going to ask about caterers themselves, and if you've got any advice for them in terms of reconnecting or supporting with their suppliers. It sounds like, from your experience, that's been fairly positive. Lots of communication going on. And I guess that's probably the key, isn't it? But have you got any advice for caterers at all in general?
I think if they keep the communication open, it's great. Those ones that they've literally we've been touching base with one another, and even if it's just to say hi, are you all okay? Even if there's no news to report, and that's been both ways. We've been doing that. I think for us as a producer, if we're looking for new business, it's, how do caterers want us to operate? How do they want us to work with them? They don't want to be inundated with samples, new people banging on their doors. So if they've got some clear message on their website that says, please leave your details here, we'll get back to you when you can. or this is the format that we want it. We don't want any samples, or we do want any samples. And then I think it's us as a producer to respect their wishes, neither, not bombard them with stuff, and, just understand how they want it to work and when their buying times are. And so there are easy guidelines for us to follow, really.
Okay. All right. Moving on from the past year and the COVID situation, and there's obviously other challenges, both UK and globally as well. The biggest one on our radar, I suppose, is Brexit. So you touched on it a little bit earlier. Have you seen positive or negative impacts either way on your business as a result of it?
I think for us it's quite difficult to comment on that, because most of this product that we buy is from the UK, so it's from UK farmers. Most of the ingredients come from the UK. We do buy some organic herbs that come in from abroad, and we did see there was a shortage of those, so we did have to buy bulk in advance, and the prices have gone up slightly on those. We're not exporting any product. I suppose the positive thing about it, if there's a positive of leaving European, is that people are more focused on searching for British product and looking at their local supply chains. So we've seen a lot of shop local, support local businesses. I think that's a combination of COVID and Brexit.
Yeah.
And so we hope that continues, that people continue to look for local suppliers.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Yeah, okay. This one maybe has been parked over the last year or so, but just thinking as well about the climate emergency, is that something perhaps just before COVID came along, was that something that you were starting to hear from your clients that was a concern for them, things that they wanted you to be thinking about?
I think there's far more awareness about the environment and people wanting to protect the environment and look after it, and what can they do. And so that was then filtering down, and caterers were thinking, where can I buy locally? How are these farmers looking after their animals? How are they managing their land? So yeah, there is starting to be more of an interest in that. And I think with the pandemic, obviously the focus is on the health of the nation. But that is positive for us, because, if you've got to eat better food, maybe less of it, but better food, where does that come from? How has it been grown? So I think for organic food in general, that is a positive. And hopefully people will, I think we've seen, haven't we, in the organic market report, that organic, in stores is performing well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then couple that with your innovations around packaging as well. It's all positive stuff. Is there anything else that you've seen or thought about in terms of packaging, and also transport as well? Is that something that also comes up? I suppose again at the moment it's been difficult because you've not been delivering out to the same places that you would normally be doing. But is that something that's of concern?
They obviously want less deliveries, and they want it, to go into a food distribution hub and to go out from there, so that schools haven't got 7-8 vans arriving outside their doors, and also the reduce the miles the food's travelling. We've seen people ask about that more. They want to have a connection with their suppliers as well, so that they can show parents, show children, link it in with the food education programs in schools. So we were seeing, where they could, schools come out to the farm, and us doing more talks for farms. So yeah, there's definitely more of an interest. How are you growing? Are you putting chemicals on your grass? How are you treating the animals? What wildlife? Wildlife's quite a key one. People are interested in what wildlife you've got on the farm. How much wastage do you have? Wastage is quite a key one. People obviously want to have less wastage in there. Packaging is just a more of a difficult one when you're doing it on a large scale, because obviously you're packing the boxes. They've got to go into a storage place to be held, and you don't want your product to get damaged. And then when it arrives at the school, the cardboard box is obviously recyclable, but we don't take it back. It's for the school to deal with. And then at the moment, the product is in a plastic bag. So, but as I say, we are trying this compostable backpacks and stuff. So maybe they'll come to the forefront in the next couple of years.
Yeah. Okay. Fab. Okay, then to conclude, we've talked quite a lot, but if we just think forwards, let's say post-COVID and even beyond up to the next 5 years, what change, if any, would you like to see in the industry? Big broad question.
Big question, that is. It's not necessarily changes, the things I'd like to see and be developed. I'd like to see that the free school meals is still there. We don't want to lose that. We want to keep that. We want to see food education prioritised in schools, because if children are more aware of what they're eating, where it's come from, then they will hopefully make the right choices going forwards, and hopefully influence their parents as well, and influence, the caterers who are purchasing the food. And for me, I'd really like to see that organic just becomes a norm on the main buying standards. At the moment, it's still very much thought of very expensive, the top end, when it should just be the norm. It's not that. It's just about how we, look after the soil, how we farm, how we look after the animals, how we protect the environment. And it ticks so many of the boxes. And I just hope that organic becomes part of the norm for the future.
Great. Excellent. Well, thanks very much for your time, Nicky. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.